What's going on, guys? Sticks here with the Token Minorities, bringing you another deck on Pokemon TCGO, and today I am bringing you a deck idea that I kind of stole from Orobomb just a little bit, and that is a deck centered around Alolan Ninetales-GX. And before I get into the deck, just a reminder, if you guys liked this video or found it helpful, please leave a like, drop a comment, click that subscribe button. It helps us out a lot. And let's just do more for you guys. And as for the question of the day, with the Garbodor meta looming, I mean, yeah, it hasn't been confirmed that Garbodor is going to be the best deck in the metagame, but let's be real. I mean, Garbodor is going to be ridiculously powerful and is going to influence the metagame incredibly heavily. And so, my question is, with that metagame looming, what types of changes have you guys made to your deck building in order to combat that as best you can? Now, what I mean is, are you running less items? Are you running more supporters? Are you running different types of supporters? That type of thing. I mean, what types of differences to your deck building have you implemented in order to be able to better combat Garbodor when it starts to take over the meta and take over the ladder, which admittedly it already has a little bit. As for me, the first thing I immediately did when I saw how influential Garbodor could potentially be is I got rid of Trainer's Mail from almost every single list. Now, some lists I still needed Trainer's Mail, like I think the Trevenant Vileplume still runs Trainer's Mail, but that's because that deck needs to be able to draw through the deck as quickly as possible so that we can get a turn 1 explosion. But other decks, I've gotten rid of Trainer's Mail completely just because that's a free 60 to 80 damage depending on how many you run. That really gets you, okay, it doesn't inherently get you any added benefit apart from making your deck a little bit faster and a little bit more consistent. Now, what I mean by that is Trainer's Mail, it doesn't get you a water energy from your discard pile like Aqua Patch. It doesn't switch your Pokemon out like Escape Rope. What it does is it just lets you grab a trainer card from the top 4 of your deck. Don't get me wrong, I love that card to death. Like, when it was before Garbodor, I put 3 or 4 in every single deck I ran just because of how incredible it was for assistance with consistency and stuff like that. However, that was something I immediately got rid of because it didn't inherently provide any additional boost to my board state. Another thing that I switched to was 3-3 of N and Sycamore. I've said this in almost every deck video that I've done, well, since the metagame, well, since Guardians Rising. I switched to 3-3 of N and Sycamore just because Sycamore is still incredibly strong, but N allows you to shuffle draw and not just dump a bunch of items into the discard pile. So it keeps the items in your deck as opposed to the discard pile, which keeps Garbodor from being able to hit those obscenely high amounts of damage. Now, if we look at my deck list, you immediately see, okay, I'm still running, how many items am I running? That's 16. I'm still running 17. I'm still running 20 items. So that's like 200 damage with Garbodor. But they're items that I can space out their use. I don't just use them all at once. I don't use them indiscriminately. I use them when I can use them, and I have to use them strategically. So, I mean, I'm still running a heavy number of items, but just not as many that I can just kind of play as soon as I get them, like I did with Trainer's Mail. So, those are the changes that I have made to my deck lists. Let me know what type of changes you guys have implemented with the Garbodor meta looming. I'm actually very interested to see what types of things you guys changed about your decks. Anyway, onto the deck, like I said, centered around Alolan Ninetales-GX. And this card actually is pretty cool. For a DCE, hits for 50 on one of your opponent's Pokemon. Just kind of a strong help snipe out little things on the bench. Granted, it's not going to be able to hit too many of the stage 1 of the basics, not stage 1s. Ninetales is a stage 1. It's not going to be able to hit many of the basics because the majority of the basics have like 60 HP now. However, I mean, still good for finishing off Pokemon that might have just like 30 HP left after you hit them with a Blizzard Edge. Just good combination of cards right there. Blizzard Edge, 160 for 3 energy, and you discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. In my opinion, it is a better drawback than Lapras's Blizzard Burn, because with Blizzard Edge, you just have to discard energy and you can use it on consecutive turns without having to rely on switch cards. So very strong right there. And then Ice Path, move all damage counters from this Pokemon to your opponent's active Pokemon. Very, very niche, but also very, very powerful in the right scenario. It's not damage change where you switch the energy. It's just, okay, all my damage counters, it's on you now. So very, very cool and a very solid potential option right there with Ninetales because it is very bulky. 210 HP, so it's not going to be knocked out very easily. And it kicked me out. So I guess it's telling me I need to speed this up and start playing matches. Be right back. Alright, we're good again. But anyway, I just talked about Ninetales. Very bulky, Blizzard Edge, Ice Path, Ice Blade, all of them very solid attacks. Not sure how amazing it's going to be, but it's still very solid. Okay, one thing I'm pairing it with is, I mean, obviously Manaphy, because free retreat and anything that gives a certain type of Pokemon free retreat or Pokemon with certain attachment free retreat is always very nice. I'm pairing it with a heavier line of Glaceon. Now, Glaceon is an incredibly strong card in this meta. Especially with everything shifting towards evolutions, Crystal Ray just becomes that much better. Now, don't get me wrong. Tapu Lele, I mean, as soon as Guardians Rising was released, was like, okay, Glaceon's going to get so much better because there's so many more evolution-reliant decks, but at the same time, it's like, oh wait, now there's going to be a basic Pokemon that can be thrown into every single deck that hinders Glaceon greatly, with Lele just being able to slap a DCE on it, and then if Glaceon is powered up, Lele's able to hit it for at least 100 damage. So, I mean, Lele does hurt Glaceon quite a bit in terms of its really metagame viability. However, in the right deck, well, with the right setup, Glaceon is very, very powerful, and I do love the combination of attackers that we have in this deck between Ninetales being able to hit for big damage and Glaceon being able to kind of set a lot of those Pokemon up to be knocked out by Blizzard Edge. I mean, just Crystal Ray for 70 or 100 if you have a Choice Band on it sets up almost every single Pokemon for a knockout with Blizzard Edge. So very potent combination. I mean, yeah, Lele does hurt Glaceon a lot, but the meta is still incredibly evolution reliant, so it forces your opponent to go into their Lele, at which point you can retreat into your Ninetales, knock that thing out, and then just go from there with your opponent's Lele now knocked out. So these two provide a lot of synergy together and really can cause a lot of wins and a lot of disruption for your opponent. As for the rest of the Pokemon, like I said, 1 Manaphy, because Aqua Tube gives free retreat. 1/2 of Shaymin and Lele for Pokemon, essentially draw support. I really like this line. I'm just going to kind of stick with 2 and 1 of Lele and Shaymin. Shaymin just for that non-draw supporter, draw support, and Lele for a, okay, grab any supporter you want and go from there. 4/3 of Vulpix and Ninetales, and this Vulpix actually is really nice as well because Beacon don't have to attach any energy at all to use this attack. Just you can use it for free. Search your deck for up to 2 Pokemon, reveal them, and put them into your hand. This helps immensely with searching for like Glaceon, Manaphy, Ninetales for next turn. And we're running 4/3 because this guy, you can just search with it until it gets knocked out and then start attacking with the stuff you've been powering up on the bench. So Vulpix, very powerful card. Great synergy with this deck. And I know I said synergy like 30 bajillion times, but all of these cards just work together so nicely that it's actually really cool. As for the items, running 4 Aqua Patch to power up our attackers as quickly as possible. I mean, this is the first deck I'm using Aqua Patch in, and I'm incredibly excited for it because I love Dark Patch. Turbo Dark is my favorite deck in Expanded, and of course Dark Patch was super powerful. Aqua Patch, I'm curious to see how good it is compared to Dark Patch. 1 Escape Rope, just in case we don't have a Manaphy down, in case we want to disrupt our opponent a little bit, that type of stuff. Now you can tell that I took this deck list from Orobomb and tweaked it because there are 2 Field Blower. If there are 2 Field Blower in a deck, you can almost guarantee yourself that this was originally an Orobomb build. But running 2 Field Blower just to get rid of Fighting Fury Belts, which can cause problems with Blizzard Edge being able to take KOs, getting rid of like Parallel Cities, that type of stuff. Field Blower just very, very strong. 2 Rescue Stretcher to be able to put some Pokemon back in the deck or get 1 Pokemon from the discard pile that we want. 4 Ultra Ball guaranteed, get us what Pokemon we want when we want. We don't need to run any Level Ball because, again, we can always just Beacon with Alolan Vulpix. So Vulpix and Ultra Ball are a great way of being able to search out whatever Pokemon you want. 4 VS Seeker to reuse all of our supporters. And then as for these supporters, you have, like I said, my line of 3/3 and in Sycamore 2 Lysandre, because Lysandre is amazing. And then as for the tech supporters, 1 Hex Maniac. I've been running this a little bit more, just because shuts down item lock, shuts down opposing, just shuts down opposing abilities, lets you get going a little bit faster, that type of stuff. And then a card that I've been teching in almost every deck I've been using lately, oddly enough, and that is Professor Kukui. Now, not only do okay, so I actually really like Kukui, because it's an extra 20 damage, which is necessary in a lot of situations, but it also draws you 2 cards. So, I mean, again, if you need draw support, use Enter Sycamore, but I found that, especially with Lele in this format, the extra 20 damage from Kukui is very, very strong. Oh, I mean, just look at it this way. Glaceon with a Choice Band hits for 100 damage. Kukui allows to hit for 120. That knocks out Manaphy. That knocks out Shaymin. Just a lot of different things. Love having the extra 20 damage. And with Lele, you're able to search that out so much easier. So I've been using Kukui a lot more, and I actually really, really like that card. For Rough Seas, to increase the longevity of all of our water-type Pokemon. Really, I could run Brooklet Hill, but I don't know. Rough Seas is just better in my opinion, especially when you have such solid search options with Vulpix and Ultra Ball. 3 Choice Band to boost our attacks and boost them to levels that we can take knockouts. Oh yeah, one other thing with Kukui. Blizzard Edge with a Choice Band only hits 190. That misses KOs on all of the Stage 1s. All the Stage 1 GXs. Evolutions, Lurantis, opposing Alolan Ninetales, those type of Pokemon. Choice Band plus Kukui allows us to one-shot those. So again, I've just been liking Kukui a lot more recently, and I encourage you guys to take a second look at it if you've written it off. And finally, 4 DCEs, because with Blizzard Edge, it says discard 2 energy. This way you don't have to discard 2 water energy. You can just manually attach a DCE, discard that, and go from there. And also you can attack with Lele. And then 9 water energy, because again, this deck mainly relies on water energy, and you can just discard them at your leisure and be able to get them back with Aqua Patch. So yeah, that is the deck. Fairly straightforward. Let's go ahead and see this deck in action.
Alrighty, we have found one against Zekler? I don't even know how to say it. But with a, looks like kind of a Lurantis Solgaleo deck. I mean, I've been seeing that more and more online recently. And so when I see that build, I'm thinking that that might be what it is. We do start off with a, well, with a mulligan. I mean, if that was a Vulpix, it would have been a decent start, because I could have attached a DCE, gotten 2 waters in the discard pile to be able to Aqua Patch, and then go from there. But alright, looks like we are going to mulligan once again. Apparently I don't run basics in this deck. Although I do run basics, but it's just a Tapu Lele. Alrighty. I mean, Tapu Lele is not the worst, because I can still attack with it with the DCE, but it's like, alright, that's fine. I guess that's fine, even though it's really not as fine as I would want it to be. But you know what? We move on. Let's see. Otherwise, from my hand, I can get a water in the discard pile. I might want to attach one to Lele immediately, just so I can have a potential energy drive next turn. But I don't know. We will see what I top deck, and then also what my opponent is running. I mean, I'm really thinking it's Lurantis Solgaleo. It has all of the, I mean, it has the type combinations of it, and really there's no deck right now that I can think of that would be an okay. Yeah, it is. Well, we see the Solgaleo, we see the Cobalion. I mean, I'm really thinking it's Lurantis. Like, I can't imagine what else it would be. But for the time being, I am going to go ahead and grab a Vulpix. I mean, I kind of wanted to grab a Glaceon, because Glaceon's going to be my way of winning this matchup. But I mean, I can't attack first turn anyway, so I might as well just go ahead and grab a Vulpix. That way I can evolve into a Ninetales next turn, and then go from there. So let's play the Rough Seas down. Shaymin for a fresh hand of 6 cards, hopefully with a supporter in there somewhere. But there's a Glaceon, and there's plenty of other cards as well. The N is nice, because I can make my opponent put back the mulligan card that he got. I could Escape Rope as well. Do I want to do that? I think yes. Let's go ahead and do that. Just go into the Vulpix. That way I have something active. Yeah, I won't be able to Aqua Patch to it, but I want to Aqua Patch to my Glaceon anyway. And, alright, I get some stuff. Let's play the Manaphy just so I have that free retreat. Do I want to play the... Well, I mean, let's play the water onto the Vulpix, and I could have Lele'd for another supporter for next turn, but I think I'm just going to save that last spot for the Vulpix. But in the case that I do not draw into a good supporter, like maybe if I didn't want to N or something like that, I want to Lele to be able to grab that Sycamore. I mean, I'm just kind of playing as if my opponent like plays their hand down to 1, doesn't play a supporter, and I want to end them. But my opponent ends me, so I'm doubly glad I didn't play the Lele down. Kind of wishing I played the Vulpix down, but again, I was hedging my bets at that point. Alright, especially because I draw into a DCE. So my opponent will be able to Dust Gather. If I hit a single Aqua Patch this turn, I will be able to knock out this Cosmog and be in a fantastic position. So let's just attach the DCE onto the Glaceon. Please hit 1 Aqua Patch. That's all I ask. And I do not. So that's very unfortunate. What I am going to go ahead and do, actually, is instead of evolving, I'm just going to go ahead and Beacon. That way I can get another Ninetales-GX, have that in my hand to be able to evolve both of my Vulpix next turn, and we can go from there. So very unfortunate that I did not draw into one of my Aqua Patches. But, I mean, hey, that does happen at some times, and I'm going to pay for it. Well, now I'm a little bit PO'd that I didn't draw into my Aqua Patch, because that was the difference between knocking out the Solgaleo, or knocking out the Cosmog, and thus my opponent would not get a Solgaleo, and my opponent being able to potentially Soul Burst GX this turn, which is very, very unfortunate. My opponent gets a Lurantis down, so he might just retreat into that, unless he doesn't have an energy, but I mean, he probably does. So my opponent's probably not retreat, but Ultra Road. He might just Ultra Road into the Lurantis, which I can definitely see that would be definitely a great play for my opponent to do, because Solgaleo can't do anything. Flower Supply at the very least can start hitting me for some damage, although I'll be healing that off with Rough Seas. So yeah, there's the attack right there. I really need an Aqua Patch this turn. Let's go ahead and Rough Seas. I could play the DCE onto the Vulpix and then try to draw into an Aqua Patch, but considering I haven't drawn into a single one yet, I'm just going to play the energy onto the Glaceon. That way I can, for sure, have something this turn, and then I'm just going to go ahead and end, get a fresh hand of 6 cards. Alright, there are all my Aqua Patches. About time you guys decided to show up. But, I mean, it's fine overall. I, at the very least, have another Ninetales ready to go, or at least have another attacker, not another Ninetales, but I evolved into another Ninetales. But with the 2 Aqua Patches, I will have 2 attackers ready to go. I'm going to split the energy from the Aqua Patches, just because I have the DCE in my hand. This will allow me to attack with either my Ninetales next turn, or at the very least, just attach and retreat. So yeah, gonna hit that Lurantis for 100 damage. Choice Band is a godsend for Crystal Ray, because 70 damage just isn't enough. 100 damage, you can start picking up like 2-hit knockouts, and all of a sudden a 5-hit knockout, was it? No. All of a sudden a 4-hit knockout, there we go. All of a sudden a 4-hit knockout on Solgaleo is a 3-hit knockout, and then the combination of Glaceon into Ninetales actually can 2-shot a Solgaleo, which is usually what you're going to be doing against Solgaleo, because that thing is so bulky, you are rarely, if ever, going to be able to 1-shot it. So, yeah, in a good position, yeah, my opponent will be able to potentially Flower Supply onto Solgaleo this turn, but otherwise, oh, he's playing more Shaymins down. So those things are going to be snipe targets. Even with a non-choice banded Crystal Ray, I'll still be able to Ice Blade Shaymins on the bench for a knockout once I hit them with the 70 damage from Glaceon. So, I mean, I keep thinking that Glaceon is going to have such a bigger part in this meta. because a lot of people have been getting rid of Pokemon Ranger lately. I mean, Volcanion's the only deck off the top of my head that I know for a fact runs Pokemon Ranger. But everything else, a lot of people have just been getting rid of... What am I trying to say? Have been getting rid of Pokemon Ranger lately, which means that Glaceon, people have a harder time getting around Glaceon. They need Lysandre or Escape Rope or stuff like that. And especially in a meta where everything is now evolutions. I know I talked about this a little bit in the... well, actually, I talked about it more than a little bit in the deck list. But the fact that in matches, Glaceon just gets to show off that much more. Every single match I've had with this deck, all but one have been against evolution decks. And the big thing with this meta is Garbodor. Garbodor is an evolution. Glaceon shuts that thing down by just being Glaceon and attacking. So, I mean, I honestly think Glaceon's going to have a bigger part in this meta. And, like, this match, while it wasn't against a hyper-competitive deck, it was still a deck that had some success in tournaments during Sun and Moon era, and Glaceon just shut it down because Glaceon shuts down evolution. So that was a very solid first match. Didn't get to show off Ninetales or even attacking turn 2 because of Aqua Patch, because I couldn't draw into Aqua Patch. But again, Glaceon just is so good in this meta that I don't always have to use Ninetales, but I do intend to use Ninetales when we find another match with this deck.
Alrighty, we have found another one against Epicmon with kind of looks like a Volcanion deck, so Ninetales will probably be able to put in some work this match. Unfortunately, we'd have to have a Kukui in order to one-shot a Volcanion with an Ice Blade, but alright, we start off with some stuff. I'm gonna put Manaphy active just because Volcanion has a habit of being able to one-shot first turn for the... if I play the Vulpix. Okay, so this is not a Volcanion deck. I read that completely wrong. What I am going to do is play the DCE onto my Vulpix, and then do I want to Shaymin for 2? I think, you know what, screw it. Let's go ahead and do that. What is my opponent running then? I'm actually very curious to see what my opponent is running. If I didn't have a Ninetales and a DCE in my hand, I would have just Sycamored, but I didn't want to get rid of all of those resources, so I decided to just end. Let's play the Choice Band onto my Vulpix. Do I want to play another one down? Maybe next turn. I don't know if I want to play it down just yet. Like, in case my opponent ends, I want to have room for, like, a Lele or a Glaceon, because, I mean, this is obviously a Toxapex GX. Wait. Is this a Yes, this is a Toxapex Evolutions deck. Oh, that is so awesome. I've really been trying to figure out a good way to run Toxapex. Because, okay, let's face it, that card is pretty underwhelming in voice crack. But that card is pretty underwhelming because it really just... Okay, so don't get me wrong. Poisoning for 10 damage counters between turns is awesome. The fact that you have to use 3... the fact that you have to use 3 energies to do it consistently, not as awesome. But, oh, my opponent's running Espeon as well. Huh. So that's kind of cool. Luckily, my opponent's Evolutions will not be able to hit me for weakness. And my opponent does just grab a Lele. So that's something that we can target down with Ice Blade for later in the game. And yeah, I mean, 100% my opponent, I'm going to go for a Glaceon. And this is exactly why I decided not to put that extra Vulpix down. Just because, okay, 2 Ninetales is usually enough, but this way I have room for a Glaceon and a Tapu Lele. So that's going to be kind of my MO this game. Just get a Glaceon out there as quickly as possible. Ooh, I even get a Field Blower. Actually, you know what? I don't need a Lele at this point. I really don't. Just because, I mean, I can save it for later if one of my Vulpix gets knocked out. And, oh, I even get a Glaceon. So that's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and play the DCE onto the Glaceon. And then, I mean, hey, Manaphy can take a hit. Manaphy's fine. I could have Escape Roped into my Vulpix and then gone for Beacon, but I didn't want to because that means my opponent could have gone into his Espeon, potentially attached a DCE, and knocked out my Vulpix with the Choice Band. If I had a... Well, first of all, that's very nice. Oh boy. Please don't get 3 heads. Okay, he only gets 2, so he's going to hit me for 90 damage. Please don't get 3 heads again. Alright, so my opponent actually got punished for getting a little bit greedy right there. I'm completely okay with that. And this hand is gorgeous. So what I am going to do is get rid of the Hex Maniac and the Water Energy to grab a Ninetales. Yeah, let's do that because I have a Ninetales in my hand. So I'll be able to get 2 of them. At the very least, I'll be able to start attacking with Glaceon. I have to, unfortunately, attach the Water Energy to my Manaphy. But on the bright side, I'll be able to double Aqua Patch this turn. So let's go ahead and do that. Play it onto my Vulpix as well. So now I have a Ninetales that's pretty close to being able to attack. I have another Ninetales that's there. Yeah, I played my hand down to 0, but at this point, like... Okay, don't get me wrong. It is always better to have a hand than to not have a hand. But at this point, I don't necessarily mind too ridiculously much. Just because, I mean, I have my Glaceon set up. I have a Ninetales set up in the background. If need be, I can retreat into Vulpix, just sacrifice that, and then Beacon for a Tapu Lele. I mean, I have potential plays that I can do. My opponent evolves into a Jolteon. Oh, that's kind of cool. So it means he will actually be able to take advantage of Rough Seas, and my opponent gets 4 heads. So glad he did not get that on the Manaphy. And wow, look at that. I top deck a Sycamore. That's... Okay, I'll be honest, that's kind of ridiculous. But what I am going to be able to do, put that onto the Ninetales, evolve my Vulpix into a Ninetales, play the Choice Band onto my other Alolan Ninetales. I could have played it onto the Glaceon, but I feel like Ninetales... I don't know, I feel like that would be a better option. And okay, there are 2 plays I could have done. First of all, I could have played the Choice Band onto the Glaceon, which would not have helped me anymore with the Toxapex, because, I mean, I'm still going to be able to knock it out next turn with a Crystal Ray. I could have retreated into my Ninetales, knocked out my opponent's Toxapex, but, I mean, at this point, I have him unlocked pretty much. Toxapex has a 3 retreat cost, so he has to waste like a DCE or something in order to be able to retreat into the Lele. And the second he retreats into Lele, I'm going to be able to knock that thing out with a with Ninetales. So I have everything I want right now. I'm in a phenomenal position. Let's go ahead and... Yeah, let's just go ahead and Crystal Ray for the knockout onto the Toxapex. Force my opponent to bring up Lele if he wants to be able to take a... If he wants to be able to even damage my Glaceon. Will he be able to take a knockout? No. Well, if he gets a DCE and a Choice Band, he'll be able to knock me out. Actually, that's kind of scary. Please don't get a DCE and a Choice Band. As soon as I spoke that, it might come to life, and I just realized how practical it is for my opponent to be able to get a knockout right now with a Lele if he's able to get a Choice Band, just because of how much Choice Band has impacted the metagame. Luckily, he does not get that. He's only going to be able to hit me for 100, and now what I can do is attach to another Ninetales, play down a Rough Seas. Yeah, let's just go ahead and heal damage off of Glaceon and Manaphy, and then retreat into my Alolan Ninetales to be able to take a one-hit knockout. And yeah, at this point, actually, the only way my opponent can truly come back is with abilities from, whether that's his evolutions providing secondary typings, whether that's with Fliptini. The only way my opponent's going to be coming back in this game is with abilities. So if I can stream Hex Maniacs for the next couple turns, I should be able to win the game off of that. I get a Rescue Stretcher off the prizes. That's pretty nice. And there's the DCE. So I'm very glad that my opponent did not have that when he had his Lele out. Unfortunately, he will be able to end me. So I'm really hoping I get like my Lysandre or just some... Well, I get a Rescue Stretcher, which, I mean, doesn't really help me. But I get a DCE, which means I will be able to attack with my Ninetales this turn. And hit the Espeon for 180 damage. If he heals off 50 from Rough Seas, then he will be able to... No, I'll still be able to Ice Blade for the knockout. But the question is, do I want to Glaceon? My opponent is getting a Toxapex out, which, okay, that's gonna be a little bit scary. But I mean, I should be okay. So I'm really not sure what I want to do, because he's gonna be able to Psychic me for a ton of... No, he divides. Is he just gonna knock out the Manaphy? Yeah, he's just going to knock out the Manaphy to try to take a couple prizes. But I mean, the thing is, I have a Rescue Stretcher. I can put the Manaphy right back down. So that's not too big of a deal. And, I mean, he just puts 10 onto the Glaceon. Yeah, it prevents me from healing or from getting closer to being fully healed than I was before. But okay. What's my play? I'm immediately going to grab the Manaphy. I want to grab... Yeah, I have to grab the Manaphy. I'm immediately going to grab that Manaphy back. I want to retreat into my Glaceon just because the only attackers my opponent has are going to be... the only attackers my opponent has are going to be evolutions. So at this point, I can potentially try to shut that off. That's... Okay. So, I mean, I could have gone for the... I could have gone for the 180 on the Espeon into Ice Blade next turn. But I don't know. I was just paranoid. I feel... Okay. That should have been my play. I should have done that. That would have allowed me to knock out the Espeon this next turn. He would have 150 damage on it. I don't know. I'm just paranoid about my opponent having something that would have prevented me from getting the knockout. Because, I mean, okay. I have 3 Ninetales. And I have enough powered up, and there's a Lysandre. Uh-oh. So this is starting to actually get kind of hairy. Definitely a misplay on my part. I should have gone for the 180 damage on that Espeon. I mean, there was no reason for me not to do that. He's going to Lysandre. What's he Lysandring in? He's Lysandring in the Manaphy again. I mean, if he attacks it with Espeon, then that's fine. But, okay. My opponent, please don't get 3 heads. Okay, 2... Crap. Okay. Ah, dang it. So my opponent... Oh, this is getting bad. So if I had not been a scaredy cat and actually had gone for the play that I said I was going to go for, I would be able to just Ice Blade this turn and win the game. I draw my second Rescue Stretcher, which is nice, but... Let's go ahead and heal off. Maybe. Please. Please, please. Heal. Don't do this, TCGO. Oh, no. Don't kick me off. Okay, good. So let's heal. But Shaymin's... Oh. Shaymin is in range of a single Lysandre with a... of a Lysandre into a single heads from Spike Cannon. So honestly, at this point, I'm just going to have to get the Shaymin off the board. Because I can't win this turn. I could have if I made the play that I said I was going to, but yeah, big misplay on my part. I need to get that Shaymin off the board. And at the very least, okay, let's Sky Return. Just get some... Just put the Ninetales up, alright? Have a Ninetales. Like, that's what you want, right? You want a nice Ninetales. Alright. So, I mean, I have a Shaymin into 6 this turn. If my opponent attacks my Ninetales, all I have to do is just manually retreat into my other Ninetales, or manually retreat into my Glaceon, hit for 70, and then potentially my Ninetales can go again. But I think at this point I need to stop trying to go the Glaceon route, because that's what got me into this situation in the first place, because I was a little scaredy cat and decided to make the... overly safe play instead of the safe wins games play. My opponent Lysandres. Oh boy, is there a way he can win? Please don't get 4 heads. Oh, thank the Lord. Okay, so he's only going to be able to hit me for... only going to be able to hit me for 120. So all I need is a Lysandre at this point. Like, that's all I need. Do I have a Lysandre in my discard pile? I do not. So this is starting to get kind of hairy. Let's go ahead and grab the Manaphy. So I kind of have to go all in on this play a little bit. Because if my opponent's able to Lysandre up my Manaphy or Shaymin and get a cheap prize off of that, then I just lose. But let's go ahead and attach a DCE, so at the very least I can Crystal Ray if I need to. But please Lysandre. No Lysandre. Oh boy. So this is getting actually pretty scary. I still can't believe I haven't gone through a Lysandre all game. That's kind of weird. Usually I'm like discarding them one of the first turns. But let's go ahead and end. Okay, do I want to do that? Yes, I need to end because if my opponent... I could have Hex Maniac, shut off Fliptini and Jolteon, but at the same time, if my opponent just had a Lysandre, that would have been able to win them the game. So right here, I'm going to get rid of the Toxapex Choice Band, definitely. Do I want to get rid of the Rough Seas? I've already used it, and he could heal off damage. Or do I want to get rid of the Choice Band on the Espeon? I'll be able to knock out the... I'll be able to knock out this Toxapex whether or not my opponent Rough Seas this turn anyway with my Ninetales that's on the bench. So at this point, I just have to hope that my N was able to stick for a single turn and that my opponent can't Lysandre in my Shaymin. Because if he drew into a Lysandre, I just lose. Like, that's it. Oh, thank the Lord. Okay, so that's actually... I find that kind of funny that I say thank the Lord that my opponent top decked a Sycamore off of an end 2. I mean, that's not something that I usually do. I mean, that's usually I'm like, oh, come on, how did my opponent hit a Sycamore? But as long as my opponent didn't hit a Lysandre, I do win this game, especially because I have the Kukui. Actually, if I had the Kukui a little while ago, I could have one-shot the Espeon with Ninetales, so I'm not going to say I misplayed, because I clearly did not, even though I totally 100% did. I'm just going to say that my supporters failed me, and yeah, just chalk it up to that. There we go. I will be able to win the game right here. Let's Rough Seas on to Rough Seas some damage off, and then just in case my math is wrong, let's play the Kukui Blizzard Edge, knock out the Toxapex, and that's kind of why I have Kukui in this deck. So Ninetales can take one-shots onto 200 and 210 HP Pokemon that seem to be, well, 210 HP GXs that seem to be everywhere in this format. So, yeah, there were some pretty significant, well, not some. There was one significant misplay that almost cost me the game. Luckily, N was able to come through in the end for me and keep my opponent from being able to get that Lysandre. So, oh, that was a lot closer than it needed to be. Again, because of a misplay on my part, but still able to come through. Glaceon put in work. Ninetales actually put in work. When you look at that, my opponent almost had a 2-to-1 heads to tails ratio. Either way, I hope you guys enjoyed watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And this is Styx signing out. Why not? See you guys.